To witness a loved one age is to see life's most honest and difficult truth unfold before your eyes. We often turn away from its unpleasant expressions, but in their struggle lies a hidden map for our own journey. Most people see only the surface, ignoring the profound lesson underneath. 99% will miss the final truth discussed here, and in doing so, they will face their own aging with fear instead of wisdom. Physical limits. The first and most undeniable transformation we witness is in the physical vessel. The body, which was once a reliable and seemingly limitless tool for navigating the world, begins to reveal its true nature as a temporary vehicle. This is often perceived as a series of failings. The steps become shorter, the movements more deliberate and hesitant. A hand that was once steady now trembles. A simple walk across a room becomes a calculated journey, fraught with the new awareness of fragility. This is profoundly unpleasant to watch, and even more so to experience, because it is a direct confrontation with the illusion of permanent strength. We see this as loss, but in the framework of a lifetime of practice, it is a powerful shift in curriculum. For decades, the mind could rely on the body's strength to enact its will. Now, the mind is being taught a new lesson: how to find stability when the physical foundation is shifting. It is a forced education in humility and adaptation. The slowing pace is not a failure of will. It is the body's natural wisdom, conserving finite energy and protecting itself from harm. It forces a presence and mindfulness on simple acts that were once performed automatically, like rising from a chair or navigating a flight of stairs. The fear of falling becomes a central, often unspoken theme. A fall is not just a physical event, it is a profound symbol. It represents a loss of control, a sudden and stark reminder of vulnerability. This fear can cause the world of the elderly to shrink dramatically. The walk around the block is abandoned. The once loved garden is viewed from a window. This is not cowardice. It is the ego's desperate attempt to maintain control in a situation where ultimate control is being taken away. The practice here, for both the observer and the experiencer, is to see beyond the fear. The challenge is to see the body's changing capacity not as a betrayal, but as a teacher. It teaches us to move with intention. It teaches us to ask for help, which is a profound spiritual practice in releasing the prideful self. It teaches us to value stillness in a new way, as a place of safety and rest, not just an absence of motion. When the body can no longer rush, the mind is given a powerful opportunity to stop rushing as well. This slowing down is a gateway. It can lead to bitterness and frustration, or it can lead to a new kind of quiet observation, a peace that is not dependent on physical capability. The unpleasantness lies in our resistance to this truth. We are a culture that worships youth and strength. We see these physical changes as the opposite of what is desirable. But what if we were to reframe it? What if this is simply the vessel preparing for its final journey, becoming lighter, demanding less, and in its fragility showing the mind where true strength must be found, not in the muscles or the bones, but in the unwavering stillness of awareness itself. This is the advanced practice. It is seeing the crumbling temple and learning to appreciate the eternal sky that surrounds it. The journey of aging forces a negotiation with pain. Chronic aches in the joints, stiffness in the back, these become constant companions. The unpleasantness often arises from the vocalization of this discomfort. Constant complaints can be draining to hear, but it is essential to understand what is happening beneath the surface of the words. The body is speaking loudly and persistently, and the person is simply translating its language. The body, which was once a silent servant, has become a demanding presence that cannot be ignored. For the individual experiencing this, it is a relentless challenge in mindfulness. Can I feel this pain without being consumed by it? Can I observe the sensation without layering on a story of suffering and victimhood? This is an extremely high-level practice. For most, the pain and the story become one. The complaint is not just a report on a physical state. It is a plea for connection, for acknowledgement of the struggle they are enduring. It is a way of saying, "See me. See the battle I am fighting just to be here." This is where the compassionate observer has a role to play, not to fix the pain, but to hear the plea underneath the complaint. Mental shifts. Another difficult change occurs within the mind. Memory, which we consider to be the bedrock of our identity, begins to show its impermanence. Forgetting a name, a recent event, or the purpose for entering a room can be deeply frightening. It feels like the self is dissolving. To the outside observer, it can be frustrating. We correct them, we fill in the blanks, often with a subtle impatience that communicates our own fear. We fear what their fading memory says about our own future and the fragile nature of the mind. This fading of short-term memory is often accompanied by a powerful and repetitive return to the past. The same stories from childhood or early adulthood are told over and over again. This can be one of the most tiring aspects for family members. We tune it out, we finish the sentences. But what if we listened in a new way? A story is repeated not because the teller has forgotten they have told it, but because the story holds an immense amount of unresolved emotional energy. It is a moment in their life that continues to define them, to teach them, or to haunt them. The repeated narrative is a signal. It is the mind's way of continuously circling a pivotal point, trying to extract its final meaning. Perhaps it is a story of great pride, a reminder of a time when they felt powerful and relevant. Perhaps it is a story of deep regret, an act for which they are subconsciously seeking resolution or forgiveness. To listen with fresh ears each time is a profound act of love. It is to offer them a space to do their essential work. Instead of saying, "I've heard this one," ask a new question. Why do you think that moment was so important to you? What did you feel right then? This can transform a repetitive annoyance into a moment of profound connection and healing. The mind's attachment to information and its ability to recall it is a core function of the ego. The ego proves its existence by what it knows. When this function falters, the ego panics. The unpleasantness of memory loss is the terror of the ego as it feels its foundation shake. But for the spirit, this can be an unburdening. To be freed from the constant need to recall, to analyze, to hold on to the past, this can open a space for a simpler state of being, for just being in the present moment without the heavy baggage of a lifetime of accumulated data. This is not to romanticize a degenerative condition, but to find the sliver of spiritual opportunity within the devastating challenge. For those around them, the practice is one of patience and presence. Your memory can become a gentle, shared vessel. You can be the calm anchor in their confusing sea. Your presence, your unwavering attention becomes more important than their ability to remember. You remind them, through your actions, that their value is not contingent on their memory. Their value is inherent in their being. This is a difficult path, but it is one that teaches unconditional love in its purest form. By shifting our perspective, we can start to see these mental shifts not as a failure of the machine, but as a deep, subconscious sorting process. The mind is letting go of non-essential data, the names, the dates, while holding on tightly to the emotionally charged moments that shape the soul. If we have the wisdom to listen, these repeated stories become their final testament, a map of the emotional landscape of their life, offered to us as a final gift. Inner rigidity. As the body becomes less flexible, so too can the mind. One of the most common and difficult traits we observe in aging is a growing rigidity of thought. Opinions that were once flexible become set in stone. New ideas are met with suspicion or outright rejection. A specific way of doing things, no matter how inefficient, becomes the only way. This stubbornness can be a tremendous source of conflict and frustration for families, leading to arguments over everything from technology to daily routines. This hardening of patterns is a defense mechanism. When the outer world feels increasingly confusing and fast-paced, and the body feels unreliable, the mind seeks to create small pockets of absolute certainty and control. Clinging to a familiar routine or an old opinion is a way to build a fortress against the chaos of change. The statement, "This is the way I've always done it," is not just about the task itself. It is a declaration of identity, an anchor in the storm of uncertainty. It is a desperate attempt to hold on to a self that feels like it is slipping away. This inner rigidity often manifests as a resistance to accepting help. For someone who has spent a lifetime being self-sufficient, a provider, a problem solver, the act of receiving care can feel like a profound defeat. It is a dismantling of their long-held identity. The unpleasant refusal of assistance is rarely about the help itself. It is about what accepting the help symbolizes, a transition from strength to dependence. It is a direct confrontation with a changing role in life, which can be terrifying. The practice for the observer is one of extraordinary patience and strategic compassion. You cannot dismantle their fortress with force. This will only make them build the walls higher. Instead, you must understand the fear that built the fortress. The goal is to offer help in a way that respects their dignity and sense of agency. It's about collaboration, not takeover. It is using language like, "Could we try this together?" or "It would really help me if you allowed me to handle this." This reframes the dynamic from one of weakness to one of mutual support. A tree that becomes too rigid cannot bend with the wind and will eventually snap. The spiritual challenge of aging is to cultivate inner flexibility even as the physical body stiffens. It is the practice of letting go of the need to be right, of releasing the identity of the one who knows best. This is an incredibly advanced practice, and it is one that many struggle with. Our role is not to judge their rigidity, but to provide a gentle, steady, and loving presence that makes them feel safe enough to perhaps consider bending just a little. We must see their stubbornness not as a personal attack, but as a symptom of their inner struggle. They are grappling with one of life's hardest questions. If I am no longer the person I used to be, who am I? Their clinging to old ways is their attempt to answer that question. Our compassion can be a bridge, helping them find a new answer, one that is based not on doing, but on being. Not on control, but on presence. Not on rigidity, but on the quiet dignity of their existence itself. Social contraction. Another often misunderstood and painful change is a progressive withdrawal from social life. Invitations that were once accepted with joy are now met with excuses. Phone calls go unanswered. The once vibrant circle of friends begins to shrink, not just due to loss, but due to a deliberate pulling away. From the outside, this can look like depression, apathy, or even a rejection of loved ones. It feels unpleasant because we interpret it as a personal slight or a sad surrender. This social contraction is often driven by a simple depletion of energy. The sheer effort of getting ready, navigating an unfamiliar environment, and engaging in hours of conversation can be utterly exhausting for an aging body and mind. What seems like a simple dinner party to us can feel like climbing a mountain for them. The noise of a crowded restaurant can be overwhelming to senses that are no longer able to filter out background stimulus effectively. The retreat is not always a sign of sadness. Sometimes it is an act of profound self-preservation. The home, which was once just a base of operations, transforms into a sanctuary. The comfort and predictability of one's own chair, one's own routine, becomes deeply nourishing. The withdrawal is not necessarily a pushing away of the world, but a deep pulling inward. It is a turning away from the complexities of social engagement toward the simplicity of a quiet, controlled environment. They are not choosing loneliness, they are choosing peace. The challenge for us is to honor that need while still finding ways to bridge the gap. This shrinking world often leads to another profound and painful inner experience, the feeling of becoming invisible. As one steps back from professional roles, from community involvement, and from the active flow of life, the world begins to reflect a different image back at them. They are no longer seen as the expert, the leader, the vital participant. They become a senior, an elder, a category rather than an individual. The phone stops ringing with requests for advice. The conversations at family gatherings happen around them, not with them. This fading relevance is one of the ego's greatest trials. The ego thrives on external validation, on being seen, needed, and acknowledged. When that validation disappears, the ego undergoes a crisis. This is the source of deep suffering. The unpleasant complaint, "No one listens to me anymore," is the cry of a self that feels it is dissolving. This is a critical spiritual juncture. Can the individual find a sense of self-worth that is not dependent on external recognition? Can they discover an inner authority that requires no audience? Our role in this is crucial. We can combat their invisibility with our focused attention. When we are with them, we must be truly with them. Put down the phone. Look them in the eye. Ask them questions not about the past, but about their present experience. What are you thinking about these days? What does the world look like from your window? Validate their existence with the gift of your presence. Instead of trying to drag them out into the noisy world, bring the world to them in a quiet, respectful way. The social contraction, while appearing sad, is a natural part of a deep inward turn that life demands at its end. It is a preparation for the final letting go of all roles and relationships. We can either see it as a tragic fading or as a necessary and sacred process of simplification. By offering our quiet, focused presence, we can be a loving companion on this inward journey, reminding them that even when they feel invisible to the world, they are deeply and profoundly seen by us. Clinging tightly as life's attachments to roles, to physical abilities, to social circles begin to fall away, a powerful counter-reaction can occur, an intense clinging to what remains. This often manifests in ways that are deeply unpleasant for others to witness. One of the most common is the accumulation of objects. The home becomes filled with possessions, old papers, and trinkets that seem to have no purpose. Attempts to clean or declutter are met with fierce emotional resistance. This behavior is not about the objects themselves, it is about what they represent. In the face of an uncertain future and a disappearing past, objects become concrete anchors. Each item, a dusty souvenir, a stack of old newspapers, a chipped teacup, is a vessel for a memory, a feeling, or a sense of identity. To discard the object feels like discarding a part of oneself. This clinging is a defense against the void. It is an attempt to fortify the self with a wall of physical things when the inner foundations feel shaky. This impulse to hoard is a physical manifestation of a spiritual struggle. The core practice of a conscious life is learning to let go. Aging presents this curriculum in its most intense form. The clinging to objects is a powerful resistance to that lesson. When you see a home overflowing with clutter, you are seeing a mind overflowing with fear. Fear of being forgotten, fear of emptiness. Our attempts to clean up are perceived as an attack on their very being. The gentle path is not to attack the clutter, but to address the underlying fear. A related form of clinging is a fixation on the body and its ailments. As other sources of identity fade, the state of one's health can become the primary focus of one's reality. Conversations become dominated by medical updates, detailed descriptions of symptoms, and the intricacies of medication schedules. To the listener, this can be tedious and worrisome. It seems like a morbid obsession, but again, we must look deeper. When you are no longer a CEO, a mother of young children, or a community leader, what is your daily work? For many, the work becomes managing the body. It is a project. It offers a sense of purpose and control in a life where those things are diminishing. Tracking symptoms, attending appointments, and discussing ailments provides a structure to the day and a concrete subject matter to talk about. It is a way to feel engaged and proactive in a life that can otherwise feel passive. This bodily fixation is the ego's last stand. If it can no longer define itself by what it does in the world, it will define itself by what is happening to its vessel. The challenge for the individual is immense: to experience the body's decline without letting the body's story become their only story. The challenge for the observer is to listen with compassion, recognizing the deeper need being expressed. Beneath the litany of physical complaints is a person seeking to be seen as someone who is still actively engaged in the process of living. Understanding this allows us to respond differently. We can listen patiently to the health update and then gently try to broaden the conversation. Besides all that, what has brought you a moment of peace today? What did you notice outside your window this morning? It is a gentle attempt to guide their awareness, their powerful focus, away from the vessel and toward the life that still exists around it and within it. It is recognizing the clinging not as a flaw, but as a cry for a more secure anchor, which can only truly be found within. Emotional release. Perhaps the most confronting aspect of witnessing the aging process is the raw and unfiltered release of emotions. This is the truth from which 99% of people turn away. An elderly person may begin to cry for what seems like no reason. They may display sudden bursts of anger or frustration that seem wildly disproportionate to the situation. Defenses that have been meticulously maintained for a lifetime begin to crumble, and what lies behind them is a lifetime of unexpressed feeling. This is the final and most important lesson. This is not a loss of control, it is a final necessary purification. Imagine a dam holding back a vast reservoir of water for 80 years. That dam is the ego, the persona, the structure of control we build to navigate society. In old age, the structural integrity of that dam begins to fail. It was never meant to last forever. What pours through the cracks is the accumulated water of a lifetime. The grief that was never fully processed, the joys that were never fully celebrated, the angers that were suppressed, the fears that were hidden. The sudden tears while watching a simple television show are not about the show. It is a lifetime of held-back sadness, finding a safe and unexpected moment to be released. The sharp anger over a misplaced item is not about the object. It is decades of frustration with life's injustices and losses, finding a small target for its immense force. We see these outbursts as unpleasant and unstable because we are still fiercely maintaining our own dams. Their emotional release threatens our sense of control. This emotional surfacing is a profound act of unburdening. The soul, in its wisdom, knows it cannot make its final transition carrying the weight of all these unresolved emotions. The late stage of life is a final opportunity to let them go. It is a messy, unpredictable, and often painful process, both for the person experiencing it and for those around them. But it is essential work. It is the spirit's final house cleaning before moving on. Our role, if we can find the strength for it, is not to stop the flow. It is not to say don't cry or calm down. It is to be a calm, loving, and non-judgmental witness, to provide a safe harbor where this emotional storm can run its course. It is to understand that we are witnessing something sacred, the dismantling of the false self to reveal the pure, feeling essence underneath. We are seeing them become more real, more authentic than they have ever been allowed to be.